The thing I wanted to also touch on, Charlie, was around how entrepreneurs try to raise money to be able to develop their product. Do you think investors' expectations in that perspective has changed, where they want proven concepts or they want to be able to see that this business has already had some engagement as opposed to just coming up with a concept and an idea?
A very interesting point that you make there, because there are different philosophies on this, right? Some people will tell you that banging out a really rustic looking MVP on a low budget, and you get some users and get some data, and then you can go and raise a round, right? That's one philosophy. It's not necessarily the philosophy I believe in. It can work for sure. I'm much more of the, if you're at an early stage startup, so you're pre-product, you're pre-revenue, if what you're producing and what you're about to show investors is not competitive in the look and feel, in the performance, it's going to be very hard for them to take a risk in this moment in time. Building an app is expensive. Okay, building a proper MVP, you're talking 50 to 60, 70, 80K, right? A lot of people don't have that money on hand. What I advise startups to do a lot is to get the app designed by a really high level professional and get it animated. What this does, and you can create videos and you can create dynamic decks with this material, and you don't have to build anything. You can probably do it for 10K, right? And if you don't have 10K, you shouldn't be starting a business, quite frankly. At least 10K to invest in the business. With those assets, you then completely change the narrative of, it's not a pitch deck that you're saying, here's my idea, which is a swing in the park. It's, this is my vision. It looks stunning. Your 250K is going to bring this to life. And I think that is a much more effective way of getting to your seed rounds. And it can even change the strategy for the seed round, because no longer are you raising off of a £1 million valuation. You might be able to stretch it to 2 because the fundamental thinking around product is there, right? And from there, you may be able to raise 500K, 750K, which is actually more valuable to you as an early stage startup than a 250K where, maybe 100 ends up into product and you've got 100 left and you're trying to figure out marketing and everything else. Before you know it, your runway's done, So for me, that small bit of upfront investment on, let's create something stunning that ignites the imagination of an investor and actually shows potential clients what this vision is all about, rather than a pitch deck or whatever your customer is going to be. Get them excited with quality and then go and raise, rather than putting something out there that you're actually not very happy with, So there are 2 trains of thought, but it depends on whether the data is going to be good enough for you to raise, or whether this inspiration that you're putting on the table is enough.
Walk us through the fundraising process for anybody who might be new to it. What do they need to do to be successful? And what are some of the common mistakes that you've seen?
Biggest mistake is the pitch deck, right? 10 to 15 slides max. Do not send an investor a deck with 20 pages, 30 pages, 40 pages, a total waste of time.
Do people still do that today?
I saw a 50-page deck yesterday. Literally a 50-page deck. Oh, company that's exciting and good, but a 50-page deck is ridiculous.
First time entrepreneurs, just out of interest?
Actually not.
Okay.
Really not. But discussion for another time. But I think understanding the way an investor is going to engage with your materials, right? Because when you're a startup, you're presuming that they're going to spend time with it and all this stuff. An investor's going to give you a deck 2 minutes max. What they'll do is they'll look at the first few slides, they'll jump down to the team page. If the team's not impressive, it's done, right? So all of a sudden, sort of showing you the other side of the board, it's like, okay, if I have 90 seconds worth of attention, what do I need to do to have them wanting to invest more time in the deck or call or whatever it's going to be? So it's not about trying to sell an investor on the opportunity with the deck. The sole purpose of a deck is to get attention and to have people wanting to understand more. You're not going to be able to tell them about the whole business in a deck. So that's a fundamental shift that I think a lot of founders need to take, rather than put a whole business plan in a deck. Like, it's not what it's about. The second thing is, when you're a founder, it's such a personal thing. right? This is your baby. This is the thing you're hoping is going to change the trajectory of your future, right? You might be digging into savings that you're sending your kids to school with to make this happen, or selling the house, or borrowing money from friends and family. Like, this is the most intimate thing in your life if you're committing to it, right? Other than your family and everything else. It's very hard to have somebody rip up your baby. And I think for a founder, and you only manage to get to this state by some hard knocks, going into it really receptive to feedback is very attractive for an investor, because they want to see that you're taking on feedback, that you can make adjustments, all this type of stuff. And when an investor asks you to do that, you know, if they say make some changes to the financial model or show me X, Y, and Z metrics, don't take a week to get back to them. You know, you should be getting back to them next day at the latest, 24 hours. You know, a week later, they've seen 14 new decks and they've forgotten about you. You know, you have a very short window where you're relevant. And if you're not delivering what they're expecting in that timely manner, then, you know, there's knock-on effects to that. So that's another big point that I would say. Sort of dipping into the new normal, and it's sort of all transitioning to Zoom, and all these calls are becoming more Zoom based, or whatever platform you're using. It then becomes, how am I effective in this environment? You know, you're no longer over a coffee having an energetic exchange where, you know, you can really get a feel for somebody. In Zoom, it's a different atmosphere. So usually I encourage people to turn the energy up by 10%. You know, you're trying to make a connection, trying to have some sort of two-way engagement before you then go into a selling process. And, you know, your energy pocket needs to be different for different people. And you kind of have to figure that out quite quickly, where if I'm pitching to somebody who's has a VC background and is perhaps slightly older, I'm going to give a very different pitch to somebody who's an entrepreneur and an angel investor and has a startup also in this space, you know. So understanding who you're talking to, again, is a really key point.
I always find the idea comes second to the person you're investing in, because they want to know who they're investing in, a bit about them and their journey, and some of their successes and failures as well, which adds value. So if you enjoy this content, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'll be creating weekly business boardroom conversations just like this.